All right. Hey, Evan, thank you, thank you, thank you. I got a lot of things I want to kick this off with. I will tell you that Dave Ellingsworth did show up, so from Jerusalem. So Dave came on shortly after you began your comments. So Dave, welcome. And I don't know if you're in a position to share at some point during this segment, or whether you can share. I don't know if what issues. Certainly want to welcome you aboard, Dave. Good to see your face there. Glad you made it there. And Evan, I want to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, especially while a lot of the guys are on. There was some grumbling, there was some criticizing going on that you and I were privy to a few months ago. Super Bowl Sunday is what I'm referring to. I don't know if you're in a position to share, but
Sure.
the He Gets Us campaign, grumbling and criticizing, and I mean, I think it's just ironic that the text you shared today had those kind of people, and you saw that firsthand. Can you alert our guys what was going on and how what's the role that the Signatry played in that process? And I saw you that morning, Super Bowl Sunday. You says, Rod, you're doing something good when you're getting criticized from both sides. So can you go there, Evan, this morning and tie this in?
Sure. I'll share briefly on it. So yeah, if you all watch the Super Bowl, if you watch probably into the NFL playoffs, you probably saw these commercials that were pretty edgy. I will admit they were pretty edgy. That had some photos and some things, and it was about Jesus. So there were some that show that Jesus, disagreed, had disagreements with his family members, but they still loved each other. In the Super Bowl, there were a couple that that Jesus wanted us to love like children do, and had all these pictures of kids, loving each other in circumstances. There's another commercial of the Super Bowl that had people fighting, and basically people like they were at each other's throats. And it says that Jesus loved our enemies, and he loved his enemies. And that campaign is called He Gets Us. You can go to hegetsus.com, see these commercials, see the kind of ad space. Though that campaign is a ministry of the ministry I work for, called the Signatry. And so, and there was you won't see the Signatry's name on anything. You won't see it we don't want any of the background of the press or anything behind that. But there was a couple of news articles that linked our foundation with a campaign. And so, as I was telling Rod before the Super Bowl, I was getting some angry calls from people saying, I can't believe we're part of these commercials. And those angry calls were coming from some of my dearest Christian friends. And it almost took me back to say, hang on a second. These commercials, what these are cast for, are actually not for Christians. And they're actually not for the people that are just so far away from God that they're not going to look at anything that says Jesus' name. They're not even think. It's actually for this big section of our population that are kind of in this like weird space where they would check religious preference and they would check none. They don't have any. Or people that would say, maybe I'm Christian, but I don't even know what that means. Is these people that are actually seeking and trying to see who Jesus is. That's who these commercials were directed at. So, and so, Rod, we had some of those things, but you know what? It's been great. So we had some criticism from both sides from that. But and if you're curious about any of those things, shoot me an email. I'd be happy to I don't do anything on that side with our ministry, so I don't have a whole lot of information I can share about He Gets Us, but I'd be happy to connect you with people that do.
And the reason I bring that up is there was people who got saved through that campaign, people who came to Christ, people who it got them curious. So who is Jesus and who is Jesus in my life? And there was a number of churches, including, the church you and I attend, Evan, that said, man, if someone has a question about Jesus, call us and we'll tell them. So do you know any of those numbers?
Yeah, it's pretty staggering. I think from the Super Bowl itself, thousands and thousands of people that said, I want to put my faith in Jesus, and then got connected into a local church. And that was kind of a big piece of the campaign. And it's still going on, of funneling people into Bible reading plans, into prayer, but then all back into local churches too. So.
Hey, Evan.
Yeah, Greg.
Hey, I don't know. You may not be at liberty to say this, and if you can't, that's fine. I get it. But is there any way that you can share even some of those people who made that possible? I mean, there's some incredible men of faith who
Yeah.
helped
Yeah.
make
I
that
mean,
possible.
yeah, I mean, some of the partners, and you can go again, hegetsus.com, and you go to he gets us, I think, partners. And then you can see, I mean, it's all pretty transparent of who the partners are with that. I mean, Luis Palau's ministry, Alpha, some of these One Hope, some of these really big ministries are all part of this actually campaign. And then lots of different churches and things like that too. So I mean, they're all pretty public online. So I'll let you do some of the digging if that's all right, Greg.
Love it. Well, and I think that's the heart of your message today. Is Jesus comes to seek and save the lost. And I love that line in The Chosen when he tells Peter, get used to different. And Jesus did it differently. You know, he sought out someone, he knew their name, he called them out. And of course, we can't use Zaeccheus in The Chosen because that's going to probably be up season 8 or only in season 3. But even the parallels of the angst that was in Matthew's spirit, I mean, you could see very clearly from those clips. And you did a great job of saying it. These were hated people. And Jesus is basically saying here, says Zacchaeus, get used to different. And I want you. And and he was converted and saved. And that's at the heart of Jesus. He comes to seek and save those who are lost.
Yep.
And that's the beautiful message of today for me. So thank you for integrating the chosen clips. And I don't know what it is about some of those scenes. You chose 2 of my favorite ones, and there's many favorites. But man, I start tearing up. When I see those scenes. I mean, it just to see the compassion of the Lord for those that are lost and call them by name, it does something to me. The scene where Jesus embraces those guys who get on the rooftop and let that man in, that scene just tears me apart. Absolutely tears me apart. So
I figured, Rod, you would like, the tax collectors, CPAs, those people. That would make sense that you would have that connection in there.
Oh yeah. That's good. Any other reaction or response, guys, to Evan's talk? And then he's got some great questions for us to consider as well. But anything that you have, and Dave, if you're at liberty in Israel to jump in and say something, I know Evan was envious, and I'm envious that you're there and we're not. So
yeah, just going to give you a little update on kind of what's going on here. They're currently not rioting. That's a good thing, and the airports are open. So I obviously got in, and been spending quality time with my family and loving on them. Got a almost 3-year-old granddaughter and almost 1-year-old granddaughter, and then a son, my son-in-law and my daughter that live here. They've been here. Well, she's been here, I think, 7 years, and she's 3 years into her seek for citizenship. So been fellowshipping. We did a lot of running to stores and getting a lot of food because Passover is on Thursday and everything shuts down. And interesting paradigm is a lot of Christians or non-Jews can run around and get like free ovens and cheap ovens and stuff like that because they start giving everything away, and all the bread makers and this is, I think tomorrow's the last day you can get any bread, and it'll be 2 weeks, and you can see it starting to stack up along the streets on the shelves and stuff. So it's pretty interesting, the whole paradigm that's going on here and everything's shutting down. So I'm going to a Seder dinner with a Christian church that my daughter goes to, King of Kings, on I think 5 o'clock on Passover. And then on Easter Sunday, resurrection, we're meeting with our friends, all of the Christian friends. There's probably going to be 20 or 25 of us all get together for Easter over there at their house. So we had to get some of the food before everything shuts down, so that we can make our piece of the, cake and potatoes and anything that we need to take to all those events that are coming up. So it was pretty special to be here. Flight was uneventful. It was a little turbulent, but and then just a quick update on kind of, Netanyahu fired the defense minister, and the main reason for that was the defense minister was going to start enforcing a law that came in 1980 that has been in the books for a while, but has never really been enforced, that if you share Christ with somebody that's over the age of 18, you can go to jail for a year. And if you share Christ with somebody that is under the age of 18 or 18 or under, you can go to jail for 2 years. And Netanyahu said, no, we're not doing that. And so he fired him, but he's since hired him back because of the unrest. The other thing that he's trying to do is reduce the Supreme Court, the judicial platform. He's trying to clean that up so that they don't have so much power. And, we know that, federal judges have a lot of power in our country to stop things that the president wants to do and various other things. And so he's trying to get it more in line with a democracy, so they have the same power as the prime minister and legislation, and not make laws by enforcing different things. So part of the upheaval was they believe that because he's doing that, that he's trying to seek more power. And so that's kind of why they had to close the airport, and they had, I think, 25,000 people in the highways, bottling up one of the main highways here in Jerusalem. And so they had, and so that's all been settled down, and he's decided to back off on all those decisions till after Passover's over. And then it'll be interesting, probably about a week or so before we leave, to see if he fires it back up again and we can't get out of the country. So who knows? But that's kind of what's going on here.
Hey, Dave, thank you. And I can't imagine what it'd be like being in Israel during Passover week, and then just the reality, what you shared about, here's a nation, God's chosen nation, yet so hostile towards the name of Christ. Prison sentences, prison terms for those who share Christ. So, guys, other reaction response for Evan this morning? Anything you guys want to talk about? And by the way, Evan, I don't know if you saw Rob Harris was on. I don't know if Rob's still on. Rob is part of a Bible study that Evan, that you're part of, and so he's joined us today for the first time, and he's part of our North Kansas City TGIW group, which is great. So thank you, Rob, for being part.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else want to share this morning? We've got a question for Evan. Great time to ask somebody who's really at the tip of the spear of a lot of things around the country related to sharing Jesus, and that's why I think even the He Gets Us campaign was such a neat thing for you guys to be involved with, Evan, because you're about penetrating the world with the gospel and bringing true conversion, not just hey, I'm a Christian now, but really, what's that do to change the way you live, change the way you give, change the way you act. That's one of the things that the Signatry is great about, is they get to the heart of people, and a lot of times their heart is their money, and they get a chance to help coach them and direct them and encourage them to put their faith out there.
Evan, my older son liked to climb trees, so I can understand but he didn't do this on purpose, but he has had a good career for almost 25 years climbing power poles and building new power lines. And another part of that job is that he gets sent to all over the country to help restore power to people after hurricane or tornado.
Yeah.
And and he gets, I think he really gets a lot of satisfaction out of doing that. And he's done some over and above things for people there. One time he was in Mississippi, I guess. Anyway, he was going to have to cut off people's power while it got restored. And so the following day, so he went around and knocked on people's doors and told them that they were going to, if they didn't have their service restored by an electrician, he was going to have to cut off their power. And then the lady whose house he went to found him the next day and brought some fresh chocolate chip cookies to him and his crew to thank them for what they had done for her.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought it's not really related to your
Hey,
message, which was really good, but I just
if you're good at climbing trees, walking up and down telephone poles is a dream job, right?
Yes, indeed.
That's good. Thanks.
And Evan, I don't ever share this with you, but I was a tree climber when I was young too. And my favorite part of climbing trees was jumping back down into the arms of my dad, and that's, it was just, that wasn't climbing trees, it was climbing a 3-bed bunk bed that my dad had built. And I would say, I'm going to jump. And, he would run in and catch me. And that was one of the great first memories of my dad was, I knew I could always count on him to catch me. So.
That's great. Awesome.
Other reaction, guys, other thoughts this morning for Evan? Scott, I know you're always good for a comment or two, especially when it ties in the Chosen here. So.
Yeah, actually, I love the videos you brought in, Evan. I'm a huge fan of that show for sure. One of the things I was thinking about, and you already alluded to it in the second clip, you see Peter, right? He's obviously knows who Matthew, and he's trying to, Jesus, don't you know who this is? He's the worst of them all, like you said. And I think you even kind of made this point. Do I have that attitude towards others, right? At times. So it checks me to make sure my heart's right towards, he came for everybody. And, I have to always check myself, my motives. Because like you said, I want to be a tree. God uses us as the trees to be conduits of his message. And so many people need to hear that. And but anyway, I think the Chosen does a great job of really showing the humanness of the disciples, and all through that, they're still have that at times, that attitude towards the people Jesus is loving, and so he's teaching them, right, that it's a heart issue, that they've got to look beyond just the surface. And I thought it's just a really powerful series. So thanks for bringing that in. And what's interesting, I was I'm part of a program called Regen through Abundant. Last night, the speaker, this is the text that he used, was Luke 19, 1-10.
All right, yeah.
And he actually, he shared a story about when he was in Florida at one time, and he actually, when he was, kind of his past and how he treated somebody in terms of taking lots of money from him and then just totally pushing him out of his life. And he moved to Kansas City. This obviously this verse convicted his heart. He turned around a few years later and paid him back 4 times what he owed, what he took from this gentleman. So interesting that you shared this, this scripture this morning. I heard this last night. So very powerful when we, we're convicted by that, right? And we want to honor, we want to honor God. And that's the healing part that came about for him. So anyway, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Scott. Appreciate that. Well, and I love The Chosen too. I haven't seen all the episodes yet. Because I get kind of like probably Rod. I get stuck because I just get wrecked by a spot and have to stop and pull myself back together. But when I was going through this in Luke 19, it is fascinating that Matthew's gospel does not mention Zaeccheus.
Yeah.
And I really do think it is because Zaeccheus was probably Matthew's boss. And the fact that he probably knew him that intimately, it was like, I mean, because if you think about the story of Zaeccheus, it's all about Zaeccheus. Jesus says only 2 lines in 3 lines in the whole passage. It's not, Jesus didn't perform a miracle, anything like that. It's about Zaeccheus. And I think Matthew was like, I ain't writing about this guy. I don't want this guy in here because I think he knew him.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was Luke was the only one that covered that, and so glad he did. But yeah, that's to me the gospel things. You piece them all together and you see the full story, and it's beautiful to see.
Yep.
Jerry, looks like you're ready to roll here.
Yep.
Evan, thanks for the message. That'll preach, man. That'll preach anywhere. The whole thing. You did it well, and the examples and bringing in the videos and all. It's really, really a powerful message. Zaccheus, in my version, the ESV, it says, "If I defrauded," and it wasn't that. I don't know if I have or not. I think he had done it so much that he couldn't remember them all. So he was convicted deeply there, and I could just see it's almost like a run on the bank. You talk on the people lined up they reminded him of how he had been too strong in what he had done for a living, I guess. A little bit on a tree, what's the characteristics of a tree, whether it's an oak or a maple or a redbud? Trees are strong, they're rooted, and that's the first thing we need to be done. Is rooted. And another thing, a tree's always there, short of a tornado blowing them down, and we've come close to that, haven't we, recently? But you're there, you're solid, you're rooted and strong. But you're just a tree unless you're waving, unless you're kind of moving a little and welcoming. My wife's she's a great lover of plants and flowers, and she says, just look at the plants, and we have a kind of an opening to the east, and just look at all the trees and the plants leaning in to the light. That's a powerful message. So are we welcoming? Are we moving a little bit so people can see that we are rooted and that we have something to say?
Yeah.
But we've got to be welcoming, and that was a challenge to me. Yeah. I'm a root, and I'm a tree, but am I welcoming?
Yeah.
And I got work to do there.
Yeah, don't be a locust tree. Those, if you're in Missouri here, the big old thorns. Don't be that tree. Don't be that one.
Yeah,
that's great, Jerry. Thank you for that insight. There's great stuff there. Anybody else want to share this morning? A lot of talking points.
I was going to suggest that the tree that Evan's talking about letting someone see Jesus from us, but the Bible has several other references to tree being planted by the river with roots that are always gathering, and then you'll know it's tree by its fruit. And it's not exactly a tree, but the vine and the branches. It's maybe a real short tree, but it's that connectedness, and being a tree is being a part of God's kingdom and connected to him. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate this as helping pre-Christians see Jesus. That's a wonderful way to put it. Thank you very much, Evan.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Good. Anybody else?
Rod, in studying trees a little bit, or any plant, there's a thing called geotrophism, and there's a positive and a negative. The positive is above ground, the negative is below ground. And if I equate that to Christ as being the positive and Satan as being the negative, we need to grow up, not down.
Ooh. Jim, man, you got your thinking cap on this morning, man. Love
Well,
it.
it's a lot of years of studying biology.
That's good. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Anybody else this morning? I'm gonna start calling on some of you guys, because some of you I can see in your face. You got something to Mike Bailey, you got something to say, I can tell. And Don Vermel, you're up next. Mike.
Thank you, Evan. A great, as I use this word quite a few times, an expose on the depth and the meaning of the word in the gospel. Because unless we get that, it's so easy just to read the words and, yeah, I've done that, cross that off. But when you get to the depths, he climbed a tree, he knew his name. All those little things, which is so easy when you're reading it, just to skip over it and not think about and get the real meaning of what's there. So thank you for your work today. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Don, I can see in your face, you got something.
Well, it's a challenge that Evan has given out to me. It's this time of year, we have services that we really seek the lost. And sometimes we get a little grumbling in our own mind because we want to just focus on the death, burial, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior, and not so much about those that are seeking and are lost to help them, because we have a big service this Sunday at MSSU where our church, Hope City, is having 2 services, and we try and bring as many people in as we can that normally wouldn't come to church, like Evan said this week, and share the gospel with them, and hopefully encourage them to seek, ask, and knock at God's door. And sometimes we just don't want to have to deal with that. We just kind of want to be in our own little catacomb and just enjoy our Lord to ourselves, and not be the person that has to, not so much has to, but should be providing a little bit light and encouragement to somebody that is struggling. And, I play golf, and on the golf course, there's a group of 16 to 20 guys I play with on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And there's that person out there that a group of guys will talk about that, you don't want to mess with him because he's just a mess. And that's kind of what you're talking about today, Evan, is that, we have to look at that person and be the light to them and give them a little encouragement. And we can lean towards the group that doesn't want to do that, or do we want to just step outside our comfort zone and go up to that person where everybody else is going, what are you doing? Hanging out with him and seeking his bad attitude, but with that, providing him an opportunity to see the light you have to give him. And that, really, that's the challenge that you've given me today, is to be that person. And I thank you. And I also say, dang it, I wish you wouldn't do that either.
Well, if there's the encouraging part about this that gets me to that, Don, and thank you, is it just kind of, even what Larry or Jerry said, it's like, you just got to be a tree doesn't have to do a whole lot. All you're doing is pointing somebody to Jesus. Just let them see Jesus. That's it. Don't feel like you got to do all the things. Jesus actually does the hard work for you. So.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. Anybody else this morning? Love the input that you're giving to us here today.
The prospect that a tree also made of wood can be used to make a fire and to shed light. So that's part of the nature of the tree and part of its potential uses. So that occurred to me while Don was talking. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Evan, thanks for pointing out that that Jesus went onto a tree. He went to the cross for us, and that connection point so timely. And again, there's no question with the timing of Zaeccheus. The Saturday. I mean, right during this Holy Week period. I mean, it's just remarkable how the dots all connect when you see the timing and the issues at hand. So love the conversation. Anybody else before we say goodbye this morning?
I was thinking, we're grafted on the tree of life due to Christ's sacrifice. It's kind of what came to mind. And Evan, I just want to thank you for the lesson today. Learned some things, and hope everybody has a great week.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be thankful that the Jews did not welcome him with open arms. Therefore, we could be grafted in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, gents. Well, let's say goodbye. Thank you for being part. Evan, if you can stay on real quick, I got a quick question for you as well. And God bless you. Have a great day. Great Holy Week. Easter Sunday coming up. Love it.
Yeah.